Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Mark Andrew Holacek. I'd love to welcome you to another episode of The Real Thomas Jefferson. Here, we're doing something a bit different, something we call Jeffersonian Vignettes. And this is our pilot episode. I'm unfortunately without the service of my better half, Captain George Gorey. And this show is an offshoot of The Real Thomas Jefferson. It's designed to introduce viewers and listeners to Jefferson by offering a brief snapshot of his life, what we may call a vignette. And it's aimed at a general, not a scholarly audience. So today I want to start off, and these vignettes are going to be short, as you can imagine. I want to start off with Marquis de Lafayette's visit to Thomas Jefferson in 1824. President James Monroe in 1824 invited Marquis de Lafayette, an enormous French figure in the American and French revolutions, to visit the United States after decades abroad in France. Now, Lafayette agreed to visit, and the visit would last over a year from August 15, 1824 to September 3, 1825. Jefferson invited the great Frenchman to pay him a visit. He writes, "Let me once more have the happiness of talking over with you your first labors here, those I witnessed in your own country, its past and present affliction." So Lafayette pledges to visit Jefferson at Monticello and then to dine at the newly built Rotunda of the University of Virginia. The University of Virginia was then under construction, was close to being finished, in an effort to celebrate the reunion of these two great lions, one a French lion, the other the American lion. Lafayette, whose name was Marie Joseph Paul Yves Roche Gilbert de Mortier de Lafayette, was an American patriot from France who came at his own expense to the colonies to help them in their war with England. We all know about the tension between the centuries of tension between England and France. He would get to know General George Washington, become a indispensable aide to Washington, and even lead battles. He, of course, led the siege of Yorktown, which was the decisive battle in the war. Lafayette befriended Jefferson when the latter was governor, and the two became intimate during Jefferson's 5-year stay in Paris from 1784 to 1789. I talked before about the famous dinner that was held in 1789 at Jefferson's residence at the Hotel Languedoc at Jefferson's residence, and where they had this famous dinner and discussed the fate of France as a republic. Now, so Lafayette comes to Albemarle County late in the morning on November 4, 1824. He refreshes himself at Mrs. Boyd's Tavern. He sets out for Monticello in a landau drawn by 4 gray horses. The landau was followed by other carriages, a detachment of cavalry, and uniformed guards. Now, as the procession approached Monticello, the cavalry lined up on one side of the circular road before the house, while everyday citizens lined up on the other side. Thomas Jefferson, who had been ill, feebly but decidedly approached his distinguished guest, grandson, and Jefferson loved his grandson so very much. Thomas Jefferson Randolph gave this account, which is too rich for me to paraphrase, so I'm going to read it to you. "The lawn on the eastern side of the house at Monticello contains not quite an acre. On this spot was the meeting of Jefferson and Lafayette on the latter's visit to the United States. The barouche containing Lafayette, stopped at the edge of his lawn. His escort, 120 mounted men, formed on one side of a semicircle extending from the carriage to the house. A crowd of about 200 men who were drawn together by curiosity to witness the meeting of those two venerable men formed themselves in a semicircle on the opposite side." So you have Frenchmen on one side and members of Albemarle or Charlottesville assembled on the other side. He continues, "As Lafayette descended from the carriage, Jefferson descended the steps of the portico. The scene which followed was touching. Jefferson was feeble and tottering with age. Lafayette permanently lamed and broken in health by his long confinement in the dungeon of Olmütz. As they approached each other, their uncertain gait quickened into a shuffling run, and exclaiming, "Ah, Jefferson, ah, Lafayette," they burst into tears as they fell into each other's arms. Among the 400 witnessing the scene, there was not a dry eye, no sound save an occasional suppressed sob. The two old men entered the house as the crowd dispersed in profound silence. One can imagine, uh, you know, use the mind's eye to imagine what was going on at the time. These two venerable champions, paladins of liberty. Lafayette fought all of his life, not only for American liberty, he fought in the Continental Army, he fought also for liberty of France. And these two men meet. Lafayette, perhaps the most outspoken spokesperson in France, in all of France, for liberty in his day. Jefferson, clearly, in my estimation, the outspoken spokesperson for liberty through all of America's history. Now, Jefferson penned, at the end of the stay, Lafayette, Jefferson had arranged for a gala dinner at the newly constructed University of Virginia. In addition to Jefferson and Lafayette, there were at the event Presidents James Madison and James Monroe. It was a spectacle-filled way to showcase Jefferson's new university, what he would later call his Simeon song, while honoring his eminent guest, Marquis de Lafayette. Jefferson penned a few profound words read by Paul W. Southall about Lafayette. Jefferson was too feeble to weak, and I'll end with this. "I joy, my friends, in your joy, inspired by the visit of this our ancient and distinguished leader and benefactor. His deeds in the War of Independence you have heard and read. They are known to you and embalmed in your memories and in the pages of faithful history. His deeds in the peace which followed that war are perhaps not known to you, but I could attest them when I was stationed in his country for the purpose of cementing its friendship with ours and of advancing our mutual interests. This friend of both was my most powerful auxiliary and advocate. He made our cause his own, as in truth it was that of his native country. Also, his influence and connections there were great. All doors of all departments were open to him at all times. To me, only formally and at appointed times. In truth, I only held the nail. He drove it. Honor him then as your benefactor in peace as in war." Those are beautiful words written by an ailing Thomas Jefferson about an ailing Marquis de Lafayette, two men who indeed sincerely loved each other, two of the greatest advocates for peace in the world and liberty, the right for people to decide to live according to their own judgment. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm Colonel Holochek. I'm signing off, TTFN. And if you like this, please share it and please like it. And Captain George Gorey will do one shortly next week. Thank you very much and see you again.